Alrighty. Number one, let me know what you think about this. I understand that it's a bit cliche to be the gamer that talks on YouTube about games and does it in front of your games, but I used to do it a few times, and I'm sick and tired of y'all just staring at my fucking windows in my bed. So let me know what you think of this. Yes, I have a lot of stuff stacked up. I really need to get a tripod. But, another thing. I came back last week from my hiatus. I don't know how many of you knew I was back. If you do want to be one of the individuals that catches every single thing I do, likes to watch every single thing I do, make sure to click the little bell next to my name. I know there's been a lot of weird shit going on with YouTube recently. Which is what I get for recording early. I know there's been a lot of stuff going on with YouTube recently, but the bell actually does work. It sends me a notification every single time someone I want to watch uploads a video. And I thought that was what the subscription was for. But when you subscribe to a lot of people, it can get lost in the mess. So if you want to be one of the people that catches every single thing I upload, click the bell. If not, you might miss me. Anywho, we have a video for today. Oh boy. So, a while back, we had quite a few different reveals. And when I say a while back, I mean a while back. Not just recently these reveals of things like The Last of Us 2 and the Uncharted standalone thing with Chloe, which I'm excited for. I always liked her character. I mean a while back, like E3 stuff that I never got around to talking to. We had quite a few games hinted at. We had the reveal of one particular game that is the inspiration for this video. While this game is the inspiration for this video, I'm going to talk about a lot of different things, so try to follow my stream of conscience and style of ranting. Anywho, we had a reveal of the new God of War 4. Except they're not going to call it God of War 4, they're going to call it God of War because they want to fuck with the naming system again. But we had a reveal of a new God of War game that looks nothing like any other God of War game. And I had a conversation on Facebook with Face Destroyer Inc., also known as Silent Rob. He's fantastic. Go subscribe to him. I doubt he'll watch this video. I'll send it his way just so he can get my thoughts on it. And no ill will towards Silent Rob. He's fantastic. But I also had a conversation with Black Metal Gamer, Jason, and I don't know. They don't seem as bothered by the new God of War as I do. So I wanted to itemize my thoughts about God of War, but I also want to itemize my thoughts about other things within the gaming industry that I think fucking suck. So, that's what we're going to do. The new God of War doesn't look like God of War. And I can't understand how gamers aren't a little bit bothered by this. God of War for me was always a hacky-slashy affair. You had your combat, you had your puzzles, you had your cutscenes, and everything was pretty hunky-dory. However, this new God of War seems to completely throw all of that out of the window. The camera is smashed behind Kratos' massive shoulders. It has, you know, different types of combat, which I can only assume is taking place with the triggers. I can't imagine this is with the buttons. And it's more cinematic, with him running around chasing his son and doing what I could only describe as boring shit. Personally, I don't think that the new God of War is going to be hurt with sales. You're going to have troglodytes that flock to it regardless because it's God of War. The exact same way you're going to have troglodytes flock to Resident Evil 7 because it's Resident Evil 7. But the problem I have is how not only are we changing something, but it also just looks completely and utterly dull compared to its predecessors. When playing God of War 1, 2, or 3, Chains of Olympus, Ghost of Sparta, or hell, even Ascension, which I don't think is very good, I haven't even finished it. When playing these games, I always knew that I was going to get something out of it. I was going to get the hacky-slashy combat, slamming my thumb on the square button like it's a clitoris, and throwing the blades of chaos in the direction of a meaty enemy. I knew that I was going to get puzzles, I knew that I was going to explore, I knew I was going to find things, fight monsters, and occasionally a cutscene would pop up and I'd sit back and watch and enjoy. But the problem I find is that with God of War 4, it's like they're taking all of these things and fucking them up. And that's the real problem. I don't like that you are taking these things and changing them for what I would consider to be the worst. Not only are you changing the gameplay, but you're also doing something that I've seen far too many other games do. And it's a real ugly thing. God of War 4, instead of having these separate pillars between gameplay and story, you're smashing them together. And that's not a good thing. I never thought that was a good thing. This idea of cinematic gameplay is a fucking farce. I play video games because I want to play video games. If I wanted to watch a movie or television, I'd watch a movie or television. I sit here to push buttons, not to push the stick forward and watch my guy lurch around as the story progresses. That's not fun to me. I've never found that to be enjoyable. Anytime I've ever played a game, whether it was a shooter, hack and slash, RPG, anytime I played a game and they basically arbitrarily stopped me from doing what I could normally do in order to get the story, I've always had that sickening feeling in my stomach like, this is not what I want to do. I want to quest. I want to fight monsters. I want to solve puzzles. Why are you stopping me? I don't give a fuck. It's a problem. When you take story, cutscenes, all that shit, and you try to mesh it with gameplay, it never works out. I am of the opinion that it never works out. Take, for instance, in my opinion, what are some good meldings of story and gameplay. How many of you played Uncharted 4? Alright? How often does Uncharted 4 stop you from playing? Not very often. I remember I was driving around the entire savannah while, my brother and Sully spoke about different important aspects of the story. Not only that, but bantering back and forth. But I was just driving the buggy. I jump out of the buggy, go do some stuff, come back, they resume the conversation. That right there is perfectly fine. Don't impede my ability to play the fucking video game. How many of you played those awesome tactical first-person shooters, or Call of Duty or Battlefield, and you're shooting at insurgents, and you're throwing grenades, and you're taking cover, and all the while your dude's in your earpiece telling you very important information about the time bomb you've got to stop, you've got to go, you have to stop it, civilians are going to die. That right there is a good melding of story and gameplay. They come together well because you don't impede my ability to fucking play the game. However, when I'm watching this gameplay of God of War 4, I'm seeing a lot of wandering around. To give you guys an idea of how boring it is to watch your character wander around while the story progresses, I'm going to do this. Don't like when I waste your time, do you? It's fucking annoying, isn't it? It's how I feel when I'm playing a game and I get to a walking section. This kind of shit is the exact same reason why I never finished the Order 1886. I know, it's about God of War, but I'm going to talk about other games. I never finished the Order 1886 because it's a boring fucking chore. Playing through that game was nauseating because it was so restrictive, it was so cumbersome, it was clunky as fuck. Playing that game was horrible. I hated it. Going through the Order 1886 is exactly how I imagine going through God of War, the new one, will be. Slow, methodical, boring, too much of the talky bits. That's not why I play video games. I play video games to push buttons and have things happen on the screen. I imagine back when I was a little kid, playing things like Donkey Kong Country. I imagine how much it would have sucked if I was playing through Donkey Kong Country and all of a sudden Cranky Kong showed up and he wanted me to slowly plod through the level while he talked about the story and talked about King K. Rool and talked about the lore of Kong Island. I would have turned the fucking game off had that shit happen. So why is it as an adult I don't get to have the fun bits and I got to deal with all this talking shit? Why is it? When I see the way they have messed with God of War in combining the story bits and the gameplay bits, it just reminds me of a lot of the other stupid bullshit that they do with this industry. A lot of dumb things they do to futz with the pure joy of playing the video game. I, for one, don't care for this. I don't like seeing them take the gameplay and the story and shove them together in such an asinine way. It's annoying, isn't it? Alright, I won't do that anymore. But you have these gamers that don't seem to care about this. And I think that bothers me more so than the dumbass industry decisions. Because, let's be honest, the people that are higher up in gaming have made dumb decisions since the inception of this hobby. But with gamers, it seems like a lot of them just don't understand that they'll just lap up anything that's presented to them with really no substance or reason. And that bothers me. I get annoyed more so at people not being outraged that God of War's gameplay is completely fucked up than I do at them fucking up the gameplay itself. I have to ask, what is wrong with gamers these days that they don't really care about the core tenets of gaming? They don't care about gameplay. All they seem to care about these days is pretty graphics and set pieces and the walkie-talkie bits, and I'm just like, what? Take, for instance, a series that I think is just about as pure in the form of gaming as anything else. This series doesn't fucking hold your hand. It doesn't throw out cutscenes galore. It doesn't have any of that bullshit. When you're playing the game, you're playing the game. Even when you open your menu, the game never stops. You're always vulnerable to attack. That game series is Dark Souls. The Dark Souls series, the Souls series in general, including Demons, Bloodborne, the Souls series is pretty fucking pure when it comes down to gaming. Now, I can only imagine how much it would suck if they were to change something about this formula. When you have a cutscene in the Souls series, you have a cutscene. You're not going to run into a quick time event. You're not going to, have any bits where you're slowly plodding around and have to get the story. No. You choose to interact with characters. You choose to talk to these people. You choose to stop and listen if they're saying something already. But you don't have to. You can skip through everybody. You can attack everybody. Oh, you're an NPC? You're going to be important later on? Well, fuck you. You don't have to deal with any of that bullshit. You just play the game. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. And if you fuck it up too badly, you might have to stop. But when it comes down to it, this game is pure. Pure. Now imagine how would you feel if I could speak English, how you would feel if you were playing the newest Souls game, if they're going to make any more, I hope they do. How would you feel if you were playing the newest Souls game and suddenly you had a little NPC child with you, and you had to take this little NPC child with you through a level, and there's maybe 3 or 4 enemies that you might have to attack, maybe, but all the time this little NPC child is talking to you, you're talking to the little NPC child, which is weird because you've never had a voice before, really. You're wandering around, you're not really doing anything, you're just trying to get this kid from point A to point B, and it's such a fucking drag. That's not fun. I don't find that fun. What I find fun is donning my armor, grabbing my big honking halberd and my shield, and going off to poke some monsters to death. That's what I find to be fun. This new God of War does not look fucking fun. If you think it looks fun, that's okay, because everybody has their fucking opinions. But, Jesus Christ, how can that be more fun than the old God of Wars? The old God of Wars were fucking insane. I cannot imagine fighting Kronos in this new game. I cannot imagine fighting some of the shit you fought and having some of those cinematic and set-piece moments in the old games with this new camera, this new style, this new gameplay. I can't imagine it. The biggest thing that you saw in that demo was that big honking motherfucker. And did you guys see that gameplay, by the way? Did that look fun to you? Because to me, it looked fucking boring. It looked bad. I've seen MMOs with auto attacks that have better looking animations than that shit that I saw. But nobody seems to care because, oh, cinematic and there's a kid and Kratos isn't a cunt. Yay! Why? Why? I never liked Kratos. I thought he was a cunt. But I liked playing the games. They were fun. They were enjoyable. Learning the tactics, memorizing attack patterns, memorizing animations, learning how to get around defenses, learning how many hits you needed to give to an enemy in order to pop that circle button above his head so you could do special moves to them, or proceed in a boss fight because you did the special move that did huge chunks of damage and broke off a piece of their armor or something. Learning these things and playing in this manner was fun. Am I going to be in the new God of War game? Am I going to be having this fucking stupid kid wander the entire time with me? Am I going to have to do puzzles with this kid complaining, Dad, that's not how you do it? That doesn't sound fucking fun to me. If that's your idea of fun, well then you probably enjoyed Order the 1886. But me personally, I like my games to be a little less restrictive. I like my games to let me explore. I like my games to let me play. I like my games to let me enjoy stuff. I don't want to be sitting here playing fucking Daddy Simulator 2017. That is not my idea of a fun video game. The problem I've talked about with God of War 4, or God of War, the new God of War, the problem I've talked about is one problem in one series compared to the many problems in other series. We have this real issue these days where people think that video games are just pretty graphics and set piece moments when it can be so much more. I think that gameplay is extremely important. I'm not saying I don't like story. Hell, one of my favorite video games of all time, if you can see it sitting there, and if you can't, here, let me just hold it up for you. One of my favorite games of all time is very heavy on story. But this game has the gameplay chops to match it as well. You know, before God of War even came along, this game had quick time events. It's not just one of those games where you say attack and they attack. No, when you hit the attack button, you have to pay attention. You have to hit your own combo buttons in order to make your attack stronger. If you don't hit the combo buttons, you'll just slash one time, do a pitiful 20-something damage, and that's it. But if you do the combos, if you hit them and do it successfully, you dodge their counterattacks, you can do huge 100-point damage combos, 150, 200, 1,000. You can do huge damage with the more combos that you learn. This game right here had God of War style hack and slash quick time event combos before God of War even existed. And it's why I love this game, because it's not just a great fucking story that you need to experience, but it's also got really good gameplay. It's a fantastic game. But these days it seems like a lot of games don't really care about the gameplay aspect. It's why I'm always disgusted when I see, you know, when the people were talking about Order 1886, and they just seemed like they were really sad they had to make a video game. The Order 1886 would make for a decent fucking movie, but it makes for a shit fucking game. And when I see somebody talking about God of War 4 script and going, "Oh, this isn't just a script. It's not like a script. It's not like a game script. It's like a movie script." I'm like, you can go fuck yourself. There's nothing wrong with having a story in games. There's nothing wrong with having, you know, lore and cutscenes and stuff, but it should never impede with the gameplay, and that's my real big problem with God of War. That's my real big problem with other games. You have these games that seem to resent being video games. It's why when I recently sat down and played Knack, I had so much fun. It's why when I play Tearaway on my video, I have so much fun, because these games are just games. They're just games. And even something like Infamous Second Son that I played recently on my PS4, it had its story. It had its moments where people would talk to me and stuff, but I never really felt impeded. I never felt restricted. I was able to play the game, have a good time, and it didn't feel like anybody had futzed with the formula. But with the new God of War, it doesn't look anywhere near as good as the old ones. I'd rather play through God of War 2 again than play this new one. By the way, God of War 2 is like the best one. Like, I like Chains of Olympus and Ghost of Sparta 2, but God of War 2 is just the best. It's fantastic. But I don't know. I don't know why other gamers aren't irritated with this, and I don't know why everybody just gets fucking enamored with pretty graphics. We're not 12. I'm 26 years old. I'm not impressed by pretty graphics anymore. Granted, they're pretty, yeah, but I mean, fuck, you take a few beers, anything's going to be pretty. When it comes down to it, I want some gameplay chops. I want something that's going to last. I want something that's going to be entertaining throughout. I don't want to just be sitting there going, "Oh, this is pretty," and then 9 hours later, it's pretty. No. If it even makes it 9 hours later, because this is another problem with short-ass video games. But, I don't know. It just seems like gamers aren't really bothered these days by games that aren't games. Games that don't have gameplay. It's disappointing. I just want to play my games. I hope you want to play your games too. Thanks for watching. Hope you got something out of this video. I'm going to do another video. I'm going to talk about something different. But yeah, stay tuned.